our friend Saad is with us now. Some of you are familiar with his work, I'm sure. He's an author, a public intellectual, a marketing expert. He has a new book out, The Sad Truth About Happiness, because, God's sad. God, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Pleasure to be with you.
All right, you deal with a lot of stuff in here. We talk about politics today, and things have been pretty fiery on the show. But we also want to give, as much as we can, have conversations here that deal with how to live the good life, how to do the right things, how to feel good in your day-to-day. Tell us about how you can achieve that and what you're getting at in this book.
Well, I'm basically arguing that, look, there's about 50% of our differences in happiness scores come from our genes, meaning some of us have a sunny disposition, some of us have a less sunny disposition. But the good news is that it still leaves 50% up for grabs. So there are certain choices that you can make in life, certain mindsets that you can adopt that either increase your likelihood of happiness or of misery. And so that's what the book is about. What are some of these secrets?
Okay,
Like what?
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. What are some?
Okay, well, let's start with the two most fundamental decisions that will either impart great happiness or great misery upon you, choosing the right life partner and the ideal job. I can speak briefly on each if you'd like. The right life partner, in evolutionary psychology, there are two opposing maxims. One is the opposites attract maxim, or the birds of a feather flock together maxim. Well, for short-term sexual encounter, opposites attract works perfectly well. I may be sexually restrained, I may be introverted, you may be the exact opposites, and hence opposites might attract. But for long-term stability of a romantic union, the research is overwhelmingly clear that it's birds of a feather flock together. And what do we mean by birds of a feather flocking on which feathers? Well, it's sharing the same life goals, same belief systems, same values. You increase your chances tremendously if you find someone with whom to assort on these values.
All right, what about jobs? So many people out there are constantly seeking affirmation, seeking happiness through what they do for a living. What does the data show us on this? What would you encourage? Let's say we got 17, 18, 20-year-olds listening right now trying to figure out what direction to go with their career. What would you say the data suggests is the pathway to fulfilling and happiness in that respect?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. I argue there are two fundamental things that you should try to achieve in terms of your ideal job, if possible. Of course, I realize people may have, pragmatic constraints. But if possible, number one, any job that allows you to instantiate your creative impulse. You could be a chef, you could be an architect, you could be a podcaster, a stand-up comic, an author, a professor. All of these jobs, while very different, share one thing in common. They create new content, new material. And the process of being immersed in the creative process really is a direct pathway to purpose and meaning. The second metric that I would recommend in terms of finding an ideal job is something that gives you temporal freedom. So, and that's a fancy way of saying that gives me freedom to sort of navigate through my day without being consistently constrained by someone else's schedule. So I may work very hard, gentlemen, but it's really on my own time. I could work till 4 in the morning on my next paper or my next book and then wake up at 10 and then go off to a cafe. So contrast that to someone who is bound by, union rules as to when they can take a bathroom break. So all other things equal, creative impulse, temporal freedom is a sure way to being happy. If I could just add one quick other thing. In one of the last chapters, I talk about anticipatory regret. So try to make decisions that will anticipate you not succumbing to future regret. So as relating to a job, many people at the end of their life will say, I really regret that I never pursued my interest in the arts. I became a pediatrician because my dad and his dad were pediatricians. And so you really have to be mindful of that. I understand that people have constraints. They have to put, food on the table. But if you can find something that will minimize anticipatory regret in the future, you're on your way to being happy.
We're speaking to Saad. He has a book, The Sad Truth About Happiness. We're talking about it right now. You say in the book you get into resilience. I've learned the older I get, the more it feels like resilience and persistence get you 90% of where you want to be.
Oh, 100%. Look, when I'm working on this book, right? I mean, of course, you have to have talent to tell a story, to, do the research on, the material that you're writing about. But the discipline that is required to wake up every day, it doesn't matter if I'm teaching classes that day. It doesn't matter if I'm having trouble with my children at home. It doesn't matter if I have bronchitis. I have to head off and write 500 words a day, no matter what. Rainy, sunny, doesn't matter. If I don't do that, I could never meet the strict deadline that my publisher has imposed. I ran a few marathons when I was younger. I mean, it's not about physical shape when you're running a marathon. It's when you hit the wall around the 38-kilometer mark, are you able to take another step? Everything in your body is saying no, but yet one step, another step, and suddenly you finish the marathon. So there's nothing you can do in life that is substantive, that doesn't require this anti-fragility mindset.
What about social media? What does it show you in terms of happiness? So many people spending a lot of time on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. They all have different cultures, Facebook. What does that reflect about happiness? Is it a pathway to unhappiness? Is it something that you have to watch? Is it something that leads to more happiness based on your data? What have you seen?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it really depends on how you interact with social media. If you use it, say in my case, because of my job, I have to spread ideas, I have to connect with people. Well, then if you do it for that, then it can bring you great riches. On the other hand, if you use it to constantly compare your lot in life to others. Well, they have a nicer car. Their marriage seems better than mine. They seem to have better put together children. Then that's why you end up with depression when you navigate through social media, because everybody is curating the best aspects of their life. They're not showing you the bad parts. And so you start underestimating how good your life is, and you think everybody has this magical life, and that can make you feel bad. So use social media to connect with others, drop the rest, and hopefully you'll be happier.
One more for you, God. I'm getting a dog with my wife this fall. You have something about that really stuck out to me in the book about, taking a tip from your dog about happiness in life.
Oh, my goodness. You know what? I think that probably getting a dog is better than being put on any antidepressant medication. I mean, I'm being a bit facetious, but look, why do we share so much with dogs? Because we both have an innate and desperate desire to play. We're both social species. We both wish to be immersed in play. That's why I have a whole chapter on life as a playground. So I'm really delighted to hear that you're getting a dog. Believe me, as someone who's had many Belgian Shepherds, life without a dog is bereft of meaning.
And speaking of that, there's different data I've seen on kids, especially when kids are young. Stresses on parents are a lot higher. I'm curious what the data reflects on parenting, grandparenting, and how children factor in to happiness based on what you've seen.
Look, the research is mixed. I mean, some people say that having children, offers you a bit of a hit of happiness. Others say the opposite. So the research is not completely unequivocal there. But I'll answer in a more philosophical way. I argue that your pathway to immortality really operates through two pathways. Number one, I could have genetic immortality, and I can only have that by having children. When I have children, I literally am propagating my genes, at least half of my genes to each of my children. The other way that I can achieve immortality is through what's called mimetic immortality, right? The books that I write hopefully are read by others. Now I'm infecting their brains with my ideas. And so from my perspective, existentially, life is somewhat poorer if you don't have children that can hopefully take care of you when you're older. So yes, get children. Hopefully that'll make you happier.
The Sad Truth About Happiness. God Saad is the author. God, always good to have you all, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Cheers.